from them. They always have. Rex Ryan took over. Adding Tim Tebow to the mix certainly didn't help. They looked very good in their first game against Buffalo, but then came back with a very poor performance against the Steelers, and then were able to sneak out an overtime win against the Miami Dolphins today. And their schedule, doesn't get any easier the rest of the way. The next 2 weeks, they go up against San Francisco and Houston, and then they have a home game against Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. They do play the New England Patriots twice this year. They play the Chargers this year. They play, who we were just talking about, the Arizona Cardinals this year. So certainly it's not going to be an easy road for the New York Jets to get to the playoffs. And certainly I think that the New England Patriots are going to win the AFC East. But, I really just can't see this team getting into the playoffs. Mark Sanchez is not the quarterback that he was his rookie season, and I don't know if he'll ever be that way with the New York Jets. Maybe if he gets moved somewhere else into a less pressure situation, maybe it'll help him out a little bit. But, I just don't see Mark Sanchez leading this team to the playoffs.
Last team I want to talk about here, you already called them a little overrated. Actually, I think you said a lot overrated. The Philadelphia Eagles have just been so turnover prone. The defense that was just supposed to be so improved this season has been a little better, but their offense has not looked good. Mike Vick has really struggled taking care of the football today, only scoring 6 points, no touchdowns. Are the Eagles playoff contenders? Because right now it doesn't look that way to me.
Oh, well, they're certainly playoff contenders, but it's going to be just a telltale to see if Mike Vick can take care of the football. This guy has, struggled with carrying the rock all season long. Obviously, when he came out of jail after the whole incident that he had with the dogs, obviously he was like, okay, Mike Vick is back. After Kevin Cobb got hurt, everyone was, saying, this is the same Mike Vick that Atlanta was supposed to get out of Virginia Tech, but he just has not been the same guy the last 2 seasons. He's fumbling a lot. He's getting kicks a lot. I don't know how many times they turned the ball over today, but in their first 2 games, they turned the ball over a combined 8 times while somehow sneaking out 2 one-point wins. Obviously, this team is a very talented team. They have a talented defense, but, they just really haven't been able to put it all together at Philadelphia. Last year, they were supposed to be the dream team. That's what everyone was calling them, the dream team. And, I thought it was going to be a Miami Heat situation where, they don't get it done the first year, but they get it done the second year. And right now, if things keep going on like they are going on with the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't even see them making the postseason. They play in a division with an improved Dallas Cowboys team along with the defending Super Bowl champion. So it's going to be hard for this team to get into the postseason. They do like to pass the ball out. They are first in the NFL in passing yards, and they're 8th in rushing yards. They have good numbers, across the board, offensively and defensively, but they just have not been able to take care of the football this season, and they're going to be going against 3 straight tenacious defenses in the Giants, Steelers, and Lions right before the bye week. And it doesn't get any easier for the team as they close out in their second half of the season with Atlanta, New Orleans, Dallas, Washington, Carolina, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Washington, and the New York Giants again. So certainly this is a team that has all the potential in the world to win every game on the schedule, but things just don't happen like that in the National Football League. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see this team go 8, maybe get possibly even 7 and 9.
Yep, those are all great points. I don't personally think they are going to make the playoffs this year unless Mike Vick starts taking care of the football. Let's jump over to college football now. I'm just going to read off the top 10 that has been posted this year by the AP. This week by the AP. You have Alabama at number 1, Oregon at number 2, LSU at number 3, Florida State at number 4, Georgia at number 5, South Carolina at number 6, Kansas State at number 7, Stanford at number 8, West Virginia at number 9, and Notre Dame, who I'm going to ask you a question about in a couple minutes, rounds out the top 10. First thing I'd like to talk about is probably the shakiest win LSU has had in a long, long time against a non-top 25 team in Auburn. What do you make of this 12-10 victory by LSU? That didn't exactly look pretty.
Well, I was watching, Les Miles get interviewed after the game last night after the LSU 2.12-10 victory over Auburn. This is a place that LSU has struggled. Their last 8 trips to Auburn, they've only won twice, and they really only won this game because they got a safety in the first quarter, and that was the 2-point difference in the ball game, and that's, something frustrating as an Auburn fan. You nearly took down the number 2 team in the nation after getting taken to the limit by a very underrated and good Louisiana Monroe team that's been receiving a lot of national attention after upsetting Arkansas and taking Auburn and Baylor to the limit. Obviously it's a tough non-conference schedule for Louisiana Monroe. Not to get off subject, but Auburn, they're in the SEC. They're a talented team. It's a packed house. It's a tough place to play, no matter who you are. I don't make much of it. I think that Zach Mettenberger has done a fantastic job at quarterback. They're going to get a break next week playing an FCS school, Towson, and then they're going to get into the thick of SEC play, and that's where we are going to really see what kind of team LSU is. They have some tough games to start out at Florida, who has been very good this year, as well as versus South Carolina, the number 6 team in the nation. Connor Shaw, Marcus Lattimore, just a great ball team for the Gamecocks this season. And then they had 2 Texas A&M, a big showdown against Alabama, and then they close out the season against number 21 Mississippi State, an improved Ole Miss team, and a Arkansas team. You never know how they're going to be like when it's all said and done. So certainly, for any SEC team, it's not a walk in the park, and for LSU, it's no different. It's going to be a telltale, and I pray that we don't see another LSU-Alabama national championship game. And I don't think we won't. I don't think we will. I think LSU will slip up 1 game, but I think there's some better teams out there than they are. They're certainly not the team they were last year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them outside of the top 10 when the season's over.
Every single night, I pray to a certain backup quarterback that we don't have one of those LSU Alabama finals. Okay, next question. Were you surprised by UCLA's loss to Oregon State? This is not exactly. I mean, UCLA was a top 25 team, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not like a top 10 team or anything. So I'm just asking this question as a Southern California person and a lover of UCLA. So can you tell me, were you surprised by UCLA?
I wasn't. UCLA looked fantastic against Rice, Nebraska, and Houston. But everything changes when you get into conference play. I don't think UCLA, a very young UCLA team, redshirt freshman quarterback, Jonathan Franklin could never get it going in the backfield yesterday. That was a big key to losing it. But this is not a bad Oregon State team. Obviously, they upset Wisconsin. Wisconsin, as you know, not the same team as they were last season. And, unless they get things figured out with Stavre at the helm and Monty Ball, try to get him back to some part of what he was last season, the team is going to struggle in Big Ten play. But back to Oregon State, this team is 2-0 after taking down 2 ranked opponents and has gotten themselves to the 18th spot in the AP poll. This is a team that lost to Division I AA school, Sacramento State, last year. So definitely a huge turnaround for the Oregon State Beavers. And, I wasn't too surprised, though, because Oregon State was a good ball club. And certainly, like I said, things are a lot different in conference. I just don't think UCLA was ready for Pac-12 play.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I watched the entire game. UCLA looked a little raw, but they showed a lot of promise, especially Brett Hundley, who looks so good. Still a little shaky, but he's so young, and his arm is just so much better than anyone they've had in recent years. Okay, 2 more questions left. Here's the first of those 2. I said we get to Notre Dame later, and here we are. Is Notre Dame a national championship candidate? Because they've already had some pretty huge wins this week in particular, and Michigan. So, do you think they're a national championship candidate? Personally, I don't, because they just have too tough of a schedule. Chris?
I agree with that. If they had a little bit easier of a schedule, I wouldn't doubt them going undefeated, but they have to play against Stanford, who already took down USC. They have to go to Oklahoma. Granted, Oklahoma lost last night to a very good Kansas State team. It's still extremely hard to go play in Norman against the Oklahoma Sooners, who I'm sure by that time will be hungry to, get to another BCS bowl game, because if Oklahoma, loses 2 games, I don't see them going to a BCS bowl game. I'll make a comment about Oklahoma in a second. And then, of course, to close out the season, they end at a very good, in my opinion, still somewhat of a national championship contender. USC Trojans, Matt Barkley, Robert Woods, Marquise Lee, the whole combo they got down there in Southern California. But one quick point I want to make, it's kind of like Landry Jones and Matt Barkley both shot themselves in the foot by coming back for their senior season. I don't know if we'd be saying this by week 4 of the college football season, but both these guys, unless one team undefeated the rest of the way, and Oklahoma and USC can finish out their schedules going undefeated, both these teams aren't going to make it to the national championship game. And that was the goal for both these quarterbacks coming back. Both these guys would probably be starting in the NFL today, would have just gotten done with their week 3 games. So, you never know. I mean, I honestly think his draft stock has dropped as well as Landry Jones has had. Both those guys had some problems turning over the football yesterday, and I think it's just sad to see that Landry Jones turned down millions of dollars to go to the NFL right away and start, as well as Matt Barkley did, just to come back and try to lead their teams to a national championship and have a chance to win a Heisman. Both those things for both those guys probably aren't going to happen anymore, and that's just sad.
You're speaking of the Heisman, and that's my last question. To wrap up this show, who do you think will win the Heisman Trophy?
It's too early to tell, but if the season were to end today, and we're only a third of the way done with the regular season, Geno Smith has been absolutely unconscious for the first 3 games of the season. This has thrown for 12 touchdowns and thrown for 1,072 yards. He has completed 81.4% of his passes. This guy has not thrown an interception yet. He's only been sacked twice. And, West Virginia, I think, I think they certainly are a national championship contender. They have a little bit rough of a schedule playing in the Big 12 in their first season, in that they play some good teams like Kansas State and like Oklahoma. But, Geno Smith has been fantastic. Well, we found out about Geno Smith last year, and he's been great the first 3 games of this season. And if he keeps it up, Geno Smith is mine for the Heisman.
Personally, I can't really tell. Like you said, it's too early. I guess if I had to pick someone, I'd also pick Geno Smith, I was watching him the other day. Looks like the most dominant player in college football. I can tell you who will not be Denard Robinson, who just looks so bad. I'm not going to get into that right now. We can maybe talk about that next show. But, Chris, thanks so much for being on my show. The show's been just a great success with you on it, and thanks for being here. Any last words?
Oh, no problem. Just for exam situation, and we'll be catching up.
Okay. Thanks for being on the show, Chris.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Joe.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that about wraps up our show. Thank you so much for listening. I will be on, like usual, sometime around at 7 a week from today. And this has been me, and today, Chris Sylvester, making history one step at a time. Thank you so much.